Sterling Ridge Group Workplace Hazardous Materials Information System 2015. Topics of discussion include education vs. training, history, purpose of WHMIS, legislation, hazard classes, hazard categories, pictograms, exclusion from WHMIS, responsibilities, labels, supplier and workplace, safety data sheets, routes of entry, hazard control, review questionnaire, Section 1. Click the link below to watch some basic facts about the Workplace Hazardous Materials Information System. Purpose of WHMIS. The Workplace Hazardous Material Information System was created to provide workers with the necessary information regarding hazardous materials located in the workplace. Ensure the information provided regarding hazardous materials is consistent across the world. Help workers and employers identify hazards associated with the hazardous materials in their workplace. Ultimately, the purpose of WHMIS is to satisfy a worker's fundamental right to know about the hazardous materials in their workplace and how to work with them safely. What is the Workplace Hazardous Material Information System? The globally harmonized system, what we are calling WHMIS 2015, is a worldwide system designed to give employers and workers information about hazardous materials used in the workplace. There are three main methods in which information on hazardous materials is provided to employers and workers: labels, safety data sheets, and education and training. The supplier of the hazardous material provides a safety data sheets to the employer. The ultimate supplier is the manufacturer. Employers pass the information on to workers and provide education and training. Here are some points regarding the history of the Workplace Hazardous Materials Information System. WHMIS is a system that has been in place for all Canadian workers who are, or may be, exposed to hazardous products in the workplace. WHMIS has ensured consistent information for all Canadian workers, requiring labeling, training, and material safety data sheets. The United Nations also tackled workplace exposure to hazardous chemicals and developed a system that most of the world has now accepted, the GHS. The GHS recognized the main hazard classification criteria of products as follows. Physical hazards. These may be flammable, explosive, self-reactive, corrosive, radioactive, toxic, and infectious. These may or may not cause physical injury. Health hazards. These find their way into the body to cause illness or injury, for example, eye irritant, carcinogen, skin sensitizer, respirable sensitizer. Environmental hazards. These are hazardous to the aquatic environment or hazardous to the ozone layer. Not chosen in Canada or the US. Within each of these groups, there are classes and categories. The GHS recognized the main hazard classification criteria of products as follows. Physical hazards. These may be flammable, explosive, self-reactive, corrosive, radioactive, toxic, and infectious. These may or may not cause physical injury. Health hazards. These find their way into the body to cause illness or injury, for example, eye irritant, carcinogen, skin sensitizer, respirable sensitizer. Environmental hazards. These are hazardous to the aquatic environment or hazardous to the ozone layer. Not chosen in Canada or the US. Within each of these groups, there are classes and categories. These hazard classification criteria are the building blocks of the standard. Each country that signed on was able to choose which of these building blocks they would implement. Once chosen, the GHS rules for classification and labels must be used. Both Canada and the US chose to exclude the requirements of the environmental hazards because there is already enough environmental law in place. Many other countries signed on to all three. In Canada, several pieces of legislation had to be changed to become compliant with the new standard. Federal legislation. There are 5 pieces of federal legislation that implement WHMIS. In general, this legislation outlines the responsibilities of the suppliers of hazardous materials. The Hazardous Products Act, Controlled Products Regulation, Ingredient Disclosure List, Hazardous Materials Information Review Act, Hazardous Materials Information Review Regulations, Provincial legislation. There are 2 pieces of provincial legislation that implement WHMIS in Ontario. In general, this legislation outlines the responsibilities of employers and workers with regards to hazardous materials. Occupational Health and Safety Act, WHMIS Regulation, OREG 860. WHMIS pictograms. Most hazard classes and categories are assigned a symbol reflecting the type or severity of the hazard. These symbols are called a pictogram only when it is framed by a red square set on a point. The exception is the biohazard pictogram, which is in a round black border. WHMIS hazard category. Each hazard class contains at least one category. The hazard categories are assigned a number, example, 1, 2, etc. Categories may also be called types. Types are assigned an alphabetical letter, example, A, B, etc. In a few cases, subcategories are also specified. Subcategories are identified with a number and a letter, example, 1A and 1B. Some hazard classes have only one category, example, corrosive to metals. Others may have two categories, example, carcinogenicity, cancer, or three categories, example, oxidizing liquids. There are a few hazard classes with 5 or more categories, example, organic peroxides. WHMIS hazard category. The category tells you about how hazardous the product is, that is, the severity of hazard. Category 1. Always the greatest level of hazard, that is, it is the most hazardous within that class. If Category 1 is further divided, Category 1A within the same hazard class is a greater hazard than Category 1B. Category 2, within the same hazard class, is more hazardous than Category 3, within the same hazard class, is more hazardous than Category 4, and so on. WHMIS pictograms. The gas cylinder pictogram is used for the following classes and categories: gases under pressure, compressed gas, liquefied gas, refrigerated liquefied gas, and dissolved gas. Examples: propane, oxygen, nitrogen. Hazards: the high pressure inside the cylinder or container. The cylinder or container may explode if heated. Refrigerated liquefied gases are very cold and can cause severe cold, cryogenic, burns, or injury. The cylinder may rocket or torpedo at great speeds if it is ruptured. Controls: inspect cylinders. Turn off when not in use. Proper storage. Keep away from traffic areas. Training for workers who exchange cylinders. The flame pictogram. The flame pictogram is used for the following classes and categories: flammable gases, Category 1. Flammable aerosols, Category 1 and 2. Flammable liquids, Category 1, 2, and 3. Flammable solids, Category 1 and 2. Pyrophoric liquids, solids, and gases, Category 1. Self-heating substances and mixtures, Category 1 and 2. Substances and mixtures, which, in contact with water, emit flammable gases, Category 1, 2, and 3. Self-reactive substances and mixtures, Types B, C, D, E, and F. Organic peroxides, Types B, C, D, E, and F. Hazards: can ignite, catch fire, easily causing fire or explosion, or can catch fire very quickly, spontaneously, if exposed to air, or may cause a fire or explosion if heated. Controls: store properly, control ignition sources, no smoking, control and clean up spills. Ventilation. An Ottawa roofing company has been fined $80,000 after 2 of its employees caught fire during a job, leaving one with critical injuries. The Ministry of Labor says Ottawa Permanent Roofing was sentenced Monday on occupational health and safety violations in connection with the July 2017 incident. The ministry says the company was hired to install a new roof on a home and second-story balcony, but an adhesive used in installing the balcony membrane caught fire. It says the flames spread to 2 employees, and one received serious burns to the arms, legs, and torso. The ministry says there was no fire extinguisher on the balcony. There were no written emergency instructions. Workers didn't have adequate means of getting off the balcony in an emergency. It says regulations require that each project have written emergency procedures, and workers have access to a fire extinguisher and a means of evacuation. The flame over circle pictogram is used for the following classes and categories: oxidizing gases, Category 1. Oxidizing liquids, Category 1, 2, and 3. Oxidizing solids, Category 1, 2, and 3. Examples: oxygen, nitric acid, organic peroxides. If nitric acid is spilled on cotton fabric, it can spontaneously ignite and burn when the spilled acid dries. Hazard: may cause or intensify a fire or cause a fire or explosion. Controls: store properly. Keep away from flammables. Control ignition sources. No smoking. Ventilation. The corrosion pictogram is used for the following classes and categories: corrosive to metals, Category 1. Skin corrosion/irritation, skin corrosion, Category 1, 1A, 1B, and 1C. Serious eye damage/eye irritation, serious eye damage, Category 1. Examples: sulfuric acid, caustic soda, chlorine, battery acid. Hazard: may cause severe skin burns. E-corrosion: may cause skin irritation, may cause serious eye damage, e-corrosion, and products that cause eye irritation. Controls: avoid contact, personal protective equipment, ventilation, hygiene practices. The exploding bomb pictogram is used for the following classes and categories: self-reactive substances and mixtures, types A and B, organic peroxides, types A and B. Examples: ethylene oxide, vinyl chlorine, nitroglycerin. Hazard: may react on their own to cause a fire or explosion, or may cause a fire or explosion if heated. May cause a fire or explosion if heated. Controls: eliminate or substitute. Keep away from ignition sources. Know the trigger that causes a reaction. Must be able to control the trigger. Store properly. WHMIS education. 4 workers injured in propane explosion outside Mississauga Strip Mall. Mississauga, Ontario. Police say 4 workers have been taken to hospital after a propane explosion outside a strip mall in Mississauga, Ontario. Peel Regional Police Constable Harinder Sohi says 5 roofers showed up for work around 7 a.m. Thursday and opened the door to a shipping container that held their tools and propane tanks. He says the explosion occurred when they opened the door, seriously injuring 3 of the workers with burns to their bodies and hurting a 4th worker as well. Sohi says the injuries do not appear to be life-threatening. He says the explosion appears to be accidental, but the Ministry of Labor and the Office of the Fire Marshal are also investigating. Sohi says the explosion occurred outside the back of the plaza and businesses in the mall remain open. The biohazardous infectious materials pictogram is used for the following classes and categories: biohazardous infectious materials, Category 1. Examples: AIDS/HIV virus, hepatitis B, salmonella. Hazards: these materials are microorganisms, nucleic acids, or proteins that cause or is a probable cause of infection, with or without toxicity, in humans or animals. Controls: avoid contamination, personal protective equipment, hygiene practices. The dead fish/tree pictogram is used for the following classes and categories: acute hazards to the aquatic environment, Category 1. Chronic hazards to the aquatic environment, Category 1-2. Environmental toxicity, Category 1-2. This class is not currently included in WHMIS in either Canada or the United States. You may see this pictogram on items from other countries. The health hazard pictogram is used for the following classes and categories: respiratory or skin sensitization, respiratory sensitizer, Category 1, 1A, 1B. Germ cell mutagenicity, Category 1, 1A, 1B, and 2. Carcinogenicity, Category 1, 1A, 1B, and 2. Reproductive toxicity, Category 1, 1A, 1B, and 2. Specific target organ toxicity, single exposure, Category 1 and 2. Specific target organ toxicity, repeated exposure, Category 1 and 2. Aspiration hazard, Category 1. Examples: mercury, acetone, PVC solvent cement caulking. Hazards. May cause allergy or asthma symptoms, or breathing difficulties if inhaled. May cause an allergic skin reaction. May cause or are suspected of causing genetic defects, permanent changes, mutations, to body cells that can be passed on to future generations. May cause or are suspected of causing cancer. May damage or are suspected of damaging fertility or the unborn child, baby. Note, there is an additional category which includes products that may cause harm to breastfed children. Health hazards. Specific organ toxicity. Single exposure. This class includes products that may cause significant, non-lethal damage to organs following a single exposure. It also includes products that may cause respiratory tract irritation and or drowsiness or dizziness. These products will be labeled with either the body silhouette or the exclamation mark. Skin and eye. These products can cause effects ranging from severe skin burns and eye damage, corrosion, to simple skin irritation or eye irritation. Either the corrosion or the exclamation mark pictogram may be used for these products. Again, the signal word and the hazard statement will indicate the degree of danger. Effects of mixing ammonia and bleach. 3 products are formed, including NH2-Cl, chloramine, NH-Cl2, dichloramine, and nitrogen trichloride, NCl3, which can be extremely harmful and irritating for lungs after inhalation. They can also be irritating for the eyes. In high concentrations, all these 3 chemicals can be toxic to the human body. The exclamation mark pictogram is used for the following classes and categories. Acute toxicity. Oral, dermal, inhalation. Category 4. Skin corrosion/irritation, skin irritation. Category 2. Serious eye damage/eye irritation, eye irritation. Category 2 and 2A. Respiratory or skin sensitization, skin sensitizer. Category 1, 1A, and 1B. Specific target organ toxicity, single exposure. Category 2. This pictogram indicates products that have health hazards, but those hazards may not be as severe as other categories in that class. Examples: ethylene oxide, vinyl chloride, nitroglycerin. Controls: eliminate or substitute. Keep away from ignition sources. Know the trigger that causes a reaction. Must be able to control the trigger. Store properly. Personal protective equipment. This pictogram indicates products that can cause severe health effects or even death if you breath them in, if they come in contact with your skin, or if they are swallowed. This is the acute toxicity hazard class and indicates products that can cause adverse effects following brief exposure. The hazard statement for this class will help to indicate the seriousness of the effects. Statements with fatal are more serious than toxic. Similarly, toxic is more serious than harmful. The skull and crossbones pictogram is used for the following classes and categories. Acute toxicity. Oral, Category 1, 2, and 3. Dermal, Category 1, 2, and 3. Inhalation, Category 1, 2, and 3. Examples: carbon monoxide, sulfuric acid. Acute toxicity refers to the effects occurring following skin contact or ingestion exposure to a single dose or multiple doses given within 24 hours, or an inhalation exposure of 4 hours. Could result from exposure to the product itself or to a product that, upon contact with water, releases a gaseous substance that is able to cause acute toxicity. Hazards: fatal, toxic, or harmful if inhaled, following skin contact, or if swallowed. Controls: eliminate or substitute. Dilute. Respiratory protection. Ventilation. Handle with extreme caution. Physical hazards: things that can burn/explode, etc., without necessarily causing a personal injury. Flammable gases. Flammable aerosols, oxidizing gases, gases under pressure. Flammable liquids. Flammable solids. Self-reactive substances and mixtures. Pyrophoric liquids. Pyrophoric solids. Oxidizing liquids. Oxidizing solids. Self-heating substances and mixtures. Organic peroxides. Corrosive to metal. Combustible dusts. Simple asphyxiant. Pyrophoric gases. Physical hazards not otherwise classified. Physical hazard categories. Within this class, there are 4 divisions or categories, each with different flashpoint and slash or boiling point values. Category 1. Flash point less than 23 degrees Celsius. Boiling point less than 35 degrees. Category 2. Flash point over 23 degrees Celsius. Boiling point over 35 degrees. Category 3. Flash point greater than 23 degrees Celsius, but under 60 degrees Celsius. Category 4. Flash point greater than 60 degrees Celsius, but under 93 degrees Celsius. As a worker, it is important to remember that Category 1 is more hazardous than Category 2, etc. Health hazards. Things that cause injury or illness inside the body. The health hazard classes defined by WHMIS include acute toxicity, skin corrosion/irritation, serious eye damage/eye irritation, respiratory or skin sensitization, germ cell mutagenicity, carcinogenicity, reproductive toxicity, specific target organ toxicity, single exposure, specific target organ toxicity, repeated exposure, aspiration hazard, biohazardous infectious material, health hazards not otherwise classified. Products exempt from WHMIS. GHS/Workplace Hazardous Management Information System legislation does not apply to wood products, tobacco products, hazardous wastes, explosives, manufactured articles, material packaged as a consumer product. Note, these products are exempt from Workplace Hazardous Management Information System, but may fall under other legislative requirements. Exclusions from WHMIS. WHMIS may not apply if another act or regulation is in its place. The following are exempt from supplier responsibilities of WHMIS. No label or SDS required. Consumer restricted products. Products sold in stores that already have labels in accordance with the Canada Consumer Product Safety Act. Explosives. Covered by the Explosives Act. Cosmetics, drug, food, or devices. Covered by the Food and Drugs Act. Pesticides, herbicides, and insecticides. Covered by the Pest Control Products Act. Responsibilities. Suppliers. Definition. A supplier is a person who manufactures, processes, packages, sells, or imports a hazardous material intended for use in the workplace. Suppliers have three main responsibilities: to determine which hazardous materials intended for use in the workplace are hazardous materials/products, to label all hazardous products as a condition of sale or importation, to provide safety data sheets, SDS, for hazardous products as a condition of sale or importation. Responsibilities. Employers. Employers are responsible to ensure all hazardous products in the workplace are labeled, either with a supplier label or workplace label. Ensure a safety data sheet, SDS, is obtained for all controlled products in the workplace. Note, SDS must be updated as changes are made. 3-year rule is no longer and must be made easily available to all workers in the workplace. Ensure workers who are exposed or likely to be exposed to controlled products are provided education and training, general WHMIS training, hazard-specific training, etc. Rights and responsibilities. Workers. Worker rights. Right to know. Workplace Hazardous Materials Information System gives workers the right to know about hazardous materials they are exposed to on the job. This includes the right to review labels and SDS, and to receive instruction and training. Right to participate. Workers also have the right to be consulted when it comes to the development and implementation of their instruction and training. Right to refuse unsafe work. Workers have the right to refuse work that is believed to endanger him/herself or another worker. Worker responsibilities. Responsibility to report. Workers are responsible to notify their supervisor if any hazardous material is missing a label or if there is no safety data sheet on site. Responsibility to participate. Workers must participate in the education and training sessions and follow the safe work procedures established by their employer. WHMIS labels. There are two types of labels that can be used on a hazardous product: supplier labels and workplace labels. Supplier labels are provided by the supplier and have 6/7 required components. Workplace labels are produced and applied by the employer and have 3 required components. Why are labels important? They will tell you the major hazards of the product, the basic precautions or safety steps you should take. Labels must be in both English and French. Other requirements. Every product that falls into a hazard class must have both a label and a safety data sheet, SDS. It is not required that the hazardous ingredients be listed on the label, but some suppliers may choose to do so. Unlike the previous WHMIS legislation, there is no standard format for a label. There will no longer be the hatch-marked edge on the label. Supplier labels. Signal words. Most labels will show a signal word that indicates the severity of the hazard. There are only two signal words. Danger, used for the more severe hazards. Warning, used for the less severe hazards. Only one signal word will appear on a label. If both apply due to different ingredients, the danger will be used. The regulations specify which word is to be used for each hazard class and category. Some low-hazard categories do not have any signal word assigned. The supplier label must include the following information: product identifier, the brand name, chemical name, common name, generic name or trade name of the hazardous product, initial supplier identifier, the name, address and telephone number of either the Canadian manufacturer or the Canadian importer. Pictograms, hazard symbols within a red square set on one of its points. Signal word, a word used to alert the reader to a potential hazard and to indicate the severity of the hazard. Hazard statements, standardized phrases which describe the nature of the hazard posed by a hazardous product. Precautionary statements, standardized phrases that describe measures to be taken to minimize or prevent adverse effects resulting from exposure to a hazardous product or resulting from improper handling or storage of a hazardous product. Hazard statements. Supplier label will also have hazard statements. Hazard statements are brief, standardized sentences that describe the hazard of the product. The following are examples of hazard statements. Extremely flammable gas. Contains gas under pressure. May explode if heated. Fatal if inhaled. Causes eye irritation. May cause cancer. The wording of the hazard statement helps to describe the degree of the hazard. Precautionary statements. Precautionary statements provide standardized advice on how to minimize or prevent harmful effects from the product. These statements can include instructions about storage, use, first aid, personal protective equipment, and emergency measures. Be aware, though, that precautionary statements on labels may not identify all of the controls that are necessary. You must check the SDS for more information. There are many precautionary statements, but there are standardized as well. These are some examples. Keep container tightly closed. Wear protective glove, protective clothing, eye protection, or face protection. If exposed or concerned, get medical advice or attention. Fight fire remotely due to the risk of explosion. Protect from sunlight. Oxidizer example. Nitric acid is an example of an oxidizer. It is used to manufacture explosives. If nitric acid is spilled on cotton fabric, it can spontaneously ignite and burn when the spilled acid dries. The precautionary statements on the label for nitric acid would include: keep away from heat, hot surfaces, sparks, open flames, and other ignition sources. No smoking. Keep away from clothing and other combustible materials. Wear protective gloves, protective clothing, eye protection, and face protection. Wear fire-resistant or flame-retardant clothing. As a worker, what do I have to do? Check to see if there is a label. Read, understand, and follow the instructions on the label. If necessary, refer to the SDS. Follow your workplace's safe work procedures. Ask for a new label when the old one cannot be seen or read properly. Make sure that a workplace label is attached when you transfer a chemical to a new container. Sample of a workplace label. A workplace label must contain product identifier, safe handling precautions, brief and precise, statement that SDS is available. Note, workplace labels do not require hazard pictograms or borders and are typically very basic, can simply be the 3 requirements written with a black Sharpie on a blank label. Ultimate label would be a duplication of the supplier label. When can a workplace label be used? If any of the following occur, a workplace label can be used. An employer can also use a supplier label if there are extra. Supplier label is missing or become unreadable. Controlled products produced in the workplace. Decanted materials, transferred from supplier container to another container. Bulk containers, controlled product received as a bulk shipment. Piping systems, when controlled product is contained or transferred in a piping system. The employer can use any means to identify the controlled product as long as the means of identification, like warning signs, symbols, piping diagrams, or color coding, is understood by the worker. Piping systems do not require a workplace label. When can a workplace label be used? If any of the following occur, a workplace label can be used. An employer can also use the supplier label if there are extra. All hazardous products must have a SDS, provide more detailed hazard information than labels. Supplier must supply a current SDS at the time of sale. Suppliers must update the SDS when they become aware of any significant new data. SDS updates are to be provided within 90 days. Last date of update found at the end of SDS. Employers are responsible for having an up-to-date SDS. SDS must be accessible to all workers. Store in a readily accessible area known to everyone. May be computerized, referenced and understood before handling a hazardous product. Hazardous Products Regulations heading. Identification. Hazard identification, including classification and label text. Composition/information on ingredients. First aid measures. Firefighting measures. Accidental release measures. Handling and storage. Exposure controls/personal protection. Physical and chemical properties. Stability and reactivity. Toxicological information. Ecological. Transport and regulatory information. Disposal considerations. Other information. SDS section information. 1. Identification. Product identifier. Additional methods of identification. Recommended use. Usage restrictions. Canadian supplier identifier. 2. Hazard identification. Hazard classification. Class, category, subcategory, type. Label information. Symbol, signal word, hazard statements, precautionary statements, other hazards not identified. 3. Composition/information on ingredients. For hazardous products that are a material or substance. Chemical name, common name/synonyms, CAS number, other unique identifiers, chemical names of impurities, stabilizers, or additives. For materials or substances in a mixture that are classified as a health hazard. Chemical name, common name/synonyms, CAS number, other unique identifiers, concentration. 4. Hazard identification. Measures by exposure type. Inhalation, skin contact, eye contact, ingestion. Vital symptoms and effects. If medical attention or treatment is required. Hazards not identified. 5. Firefighting measures. Suitable and unsuitable extinguishing media. Hazards associated with the hazardous product in fire conditions. Personal protective equipment and precautions for firefighters. 6. Accidental release measures. Personal protective equipment, precautions, and emergency procedures. Containment method, including required materials. Prescribed cleanup. 7. Handling and storage. Information on safe handling. Prescribed storage methods. Incompatible materials. 8. Exposure controls/personal protection. Occupational exposure information for chemical and biological exposures and appropriate control mechanisms. Engineering controls. Personal protective equipment recommendations. 10. Stability and reactivity. Not all may be applicable. Reactivity, stability, possible hazardous reactions, undesirable conditions that can impact material, shock, light, incompatible materials, decomposition products. 11. Toxicological information, description of toxic health effects, and the data which verified these claims. Routes of exposure, symptoms related to the toxic health effects, delayed, immediate, and chronic effects from short and long-term exposures, values/measurements of toxicity. 12. Ecological information. Information may not be on SDS. Ecotoxicity, persistence and degradability, bioaccumulation potential, mobility in soil, other adverse effects. 13. Disposal considerations. Information may not be on SDS. Safe handling for disposal. Methods for disposal, including contaminated packaging. 14. Transport information. Information may not be on SDS. UN number. UN proper shipping name. Transport hazard classes. Packing group. Environmental hazards. Transport in bulk. Special precautions. 15. Regulatory information. Information may not be on SDS. Safety, health, and environmental regulations pertaining to the product. 16. Other information. Latest date the SDS was revised. Routes of entry. There are 4 different ways that hazardous materials can enter your body and then get into your bloodstream. 1. Absorption, via the skin or eyes. 2. Ingestion, via the digestive system. 3. Inhalation, via the lungs. 4. Injection, direct into the bloodstream. When protecting yourself from hazardous materials, remember all 4 routes of entry. Hierarchy of control. Hierarchy of control is a sequence of options which offer you a number of ways to control a hazard. To be effective, you start with the highest level of control and work your way down the list, implementing the best possible measure of control for your situation. 1. Eliminate. Remove the cause of the danger completely. 2. Substitute. Replace the hazardous work practice or machine with an alternative. 3. Isolate. Separate the hazard from the people at risk from injury. 4. Engineer controls, physical changes. Redesign machine by adding safeguards. 5. Administrative controls. Install signs, rotate jobs, etc. 6. PPE. Provide gloves, earplugs, etc. Location of control. When determining the method of controls to be used, the location of the potential control should also be considered. There are 3 general options: at the source, which is most preferred, along the path, and at the worker. Review questionnaire. Participants will now be given a review questionnaire to document their comprehension of the materials covered during this training. Participants must achieve a 75% grade to show adequate comprehension of the training materials. If a participant fails the review, additional time will be spent with the participant to clarify areas of confusion, and 1 retake of the questionnaire will be allowed. A second failure would result in a participant having to take the entire course again.